Shalom, giving all honor, all praise, and all glory to Yahweh, Bashim, Yahushai, Bashim, Rachak, Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And peace, blessings, and salutations to the hopeful elect tabernacle of David scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. It's only getting darker and darker and darker, as we get closer and closer. The days are getting darker, man. We in that time. So that's why it's best to be in this inner circle of ours, this truth, around like-minded individuals, those who are striving, for the mastery, that's trying to earn that penny, that's, competing for that incorruptible crown, because everything else around us, it's all dark and corrupted. And once again, Eve, she never ceases to surprise anyone, with her dark demonic behavior, and it's out of control. But a lot of them, they're infested. They got demons on them. They're under the curse. So in these last days, they're just they're crashing out. And this latest example right here, very tragic. You had the nigger woman, Eve. She slew her own child, her own son, 6 years old, because she believed that, I guess, he had a demon possession. So she wanted to exorcise the exorcist by putting him to death. She thought that would do the job, and she didn't think nothing of it. She didn't think of the consequence, to commit murder on her own child. The scriptures, you can't get offended at the scriptures when it say what it say, man. That all wickedness is but little to the wickedness of a woman. And that's not to say that men don't get under possession. That's not to say that men don't do wickedness either. But, a lot of these killings that I've been seeing, with children, being put to death, it's a lot of black women, and they've been killing their babies in various ways, so it just goes to show you. But anyway, this is the news segment. All right, this woman clearly wasn't she wasn't in her right mind. She was bugged out. Who knows where the father was? Because the curse is, the man and the woman, they would they would have an evil eye against one another, and that evil eye would also trickle over to the children. So that seed, that child, because she probably hate the father, so the son usually has to take the heat from the father since the father isn't there. And that's normally how it go. All right, so clearly you can't say that we're not cursed. But anyway, let me just play this, and then we'll get a couple pre's.
Video showing the moment deputies first encountered Rhonda Polynice, the St. Lucie County mother accused of killing her 6-year-old son. St. Lucie County Sheriff Richard Del Toro says she told deputies she was trying to exorcise demons out of him. Anchor Megan McRoberts has new information into what deputies found inside her home and her concerning behavior.
You Rhonda?
There's something in that water in Florida, man. There's something about I don't know what it is in the air, if it's in the water, but Florida, it seemed to be a demonic place where there's a lot of demonic activity with niggas. I know it's a lot of dreadheads, a bunch of Haitians, a lot of Caribbean people over there. And, we know that they known for them left hand practices, the voodoos and the witchcraft and all that. But I don't know, it's something different in that water down there, man. A lot of the crimes that I be seeing down there is crazy.
Camera footage shows a deputy approaching Rhonda Polynice outside her home May 30th, asking why her son, Ramil Pierre, hadn't been to school for nearly 2 weeks. According to an arrest affidavit, he was absent since May 14th. The video shows she first said this to deputies.
They haven't been to school in this whole month?
Oh, yeah. No. It's just that, I haven't sent him to school yet.
The deputy telling her the boy's absence is reaching the point of truancy.
The school is unaware of what's going on with him?
He's going to go back to school.
The deputy asks for her ID. As she scrolls for a picture of it on her phone, the deputy follows up about Ramil's well-being.
Is your kid here right now?
Is my son here?
Yeah, is he here?
Yes.
Is there any way I could at least see him just to make sure that he's okay?
Sure.
Polynice walks the deputy to her home, joined now by other deputies. Once inside, an arrest report notes she was behaving oddly and would not remove her sunglasses and appeared completely indifferent to the deputy's presence.
So it's weird because, she acting like that, knowing she's guilty. Her whole demeanor and the way she was behaving definitely gave her away. But you're going to exorcise demons off of your son and you a whole demon. Make that make sense, man. You couldn't make this up. You're a whole demon trying to exorcise demons off of another being. Like that. How does that work? When Yahweh Shai was able to cast out demons, and they were saying that he was doing it in the name of Baal-zebub, he came with the he came with the two-edged blade, the two-edged sword, and cut and pierced right through they soul with his comeback statement. If Satan cast out Satan, then his kingdom is divided. A kingdom divided against itself cannot stand, but shall have an end. And if Satan shall cast out Satan, then basically it'll come to nothing. So this woman here, she was just bugged out. She had a spirit on her. More than likely, it was a spirit of vengeance, because for that child to end up in this kind of judgment, he probably had to pay for something he'd done in his past life, to show you that you got to be a spiritual individual to understand reincarnation. Because, when you're a child, you're not under the, you're not in the age of accountability. When you're, 3 years old, 5, 6 years old, 9 years old, you're not under the age of accountability. So, you still have that innocency. So, you're supposed to just train up your child. You discipline them. We know what the scriptures say. She just didn't have the patience, because, he more than likely had that energy stored up in him. He probably couldn't sit down. She lost patience, didn't want to deal, probably resented him because of the relationship she had with his father, hating the father. So a spirit of vengeance got on her and took over her, and she took her own flesh and blood out, But you gotta be spiritual. Reincarnation is a real concept in the scriptures. Why you think when they asked the Lord about that blind man, they asked who did sin? Let me get that. This is John 9. Yeah, this is John 9:1. It says, and as Yahweh Shai passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Right? And being blind, that's unfortunate. That's a defect, and that could be considered a punishment. But the Lord told the overall purpose of why he was actually born that way. Yahushua answered, neither have this man sinned nor his parents, but that the works of the Most High should be made manifest in him. So why did they ask that? Because obviously you can't sin while you're born. You can't commit transgression while you've been born. Neither are you held accountable when you're an infant. So clearly they're asking this question because they knew about the concept of reincarnation. All right. So when you hear about children's being put to death, why they die in the manner that they do, is roughly because, they paying for what they did in their past life. All right. And the Lord, he visits the iniquity of the fathers upon the third and fourth generation. All right. And that's in the law. So like it says in Job, whoever perish being innocent or where a righteous cut off. Now the child in himself in this life possibly was innocent, but we don't know if he was innocent in his past life. Only the Lord knows. But at the end of the day, this is still, cold-blooded behavior, man, from the mother, in which the Lord warned and said, because iniquity shall abound, and we're in that time. Matthew 24 and verse 11, it says, it's like your verse 12. It says, and because iniquity shall abound, and iniquity is abounding because the law slacked. The true judgments of the Lord, the righteous judgments, it doesn't go forth. So you got all this wickedness, all this out of control behavior from the people, incontinency. All right. Adultery, idolatry, murder. This is what you're going to have. Shameless behavior. It's Pride Month right now, so abominable energy is increased. It's on steroids right now. Yeah, Sesame Street put out a X post, a tweet. Everybody's welcome on our street with a bunch of rainbow colors and hands, joined together. This is part of that term, man. Iniquity shall abound. The love of many shall wax cold. All right. This is all under the vibration of who's at the top. Yeah, and we all know who it is. And he's a violent, murderous demon. Okay. And Eve, she's followed him in his tracks. All right. Since the garden, she gave in. It seemed like they made a spiritual pact together ever since she, opened up Pandora's box, listening to him and supping with him and then eating up the tree. All right. And she's right now, Eve's being found out and Eve is being found out. All right. And that's why, as they both are going out sad, and Most High is bringing out everything on them, and now they're crashing on their way down. Eve, she's getting exposed every day. And now a lot of our women that bought into that whole women empowerment, independent, strong and independent doctrine. A lot of them, they're in trouble now. They're being evicted, at an alarming rate. They're becoming homeless. They're losing their employment, their jobs, their benefits getting cut. This is what happens, man. So anyway, let's finish this out.
The report says deputies knocked on several doors in the home, finding the room where Ramil was laying on a bed, covered in a blanket with only his face showing. Deputies immediately realizing he was deceased and established a crime scene. The report also notes the condition of the home inside. Overly organized, clothing, kitchen items, and food and cleaning supplies were specifically and carefully placed to a degree I had never seen. The report says Polynice was allowed to say goodbye to her son before his body was removed from the home, noting that although she appeared distraught, it did not appear sincere. In a news conference, the sheriff said,
that's a wicked woman. That is a wicked woman. So she basically tried to act like she was sad, about her son's demise, even though she the one that did it. But they saw she was full of shit. What the apostles and brothers, and really shit, men in general now, primarily, Jake, what are they, the whole thing right now is let these women be, man. What we've been telling you about Eve, man, the so-called end-up, it's crazy, man. Let me get this in Sirach, was it 19? Where is it at? Sirach 19 and Sirach 19 and 26. And it says, there is a wicked man that hangeth down his head sadly. You can apply this to the woman, but inwardly he is full of deceit. Okay. And they saw right through her. She wasn't being sincere. She wasn't being truthful. Just like Cain, when he rose up and slew his brother Abel, he wasn't being sincere at all. Okay. And he had the spirit of murder on him. So she murdered her child, and now, she started acting funny. And her son's blood cried up to the Lord. And I don't know why she thought she would get away. You ain't getting away. It's wickedness, man.
she told deputies,
And if you would do that, you are a danger to society in general. And really the judgment is she's supposed to be put down. But under his law, they just lock you in a cage somewhere. At least you get rid of her. You you get rid of the danger. Because she definitely is a danger to society, a danger to other people. So you want to keep people away from harm by getting rid of the problem.
she wanted to exorcise demons out of her son.
And when the child had stopped moving and basically...
She didn't think about, fasting, prayer, anointing. That's normally what you do when you exorcise demons. And that's if he even had demons on him. He probably could have just been a little, energized. And she didn't have any patience and thought he had demons. Because, children are going to be children. Or unless she gave him medication or some stuff like that. And it because these drugs, it put demons on you. We don't recommend, giving drugs. But, what would she have known about, knowing how to properly cast out spirits? Burning sage, anointing, saying prayers, so on and so forth, fasting. Her in her mind was, well, the only way to get rid of it is I gotta kill the flesh. Your own child. The selfishness. Stay far away from her right now, man. Eve is not in her right mind. She's going out sad. If you got a decent one, and she's a rarity, you hold on to that. But as far as the rest of them, let them be. Right, because the Lord is the Lord. I mean, he been had it planned out, because the scriptures already tell you, she that is mine enemy will see it, and shame is going to cover her. All right, because she definitely denied the Most High in his existence, in her behavior, following after this damn serpent. All right, so she's going to be, a target in these last days, man. And she's not going to have any covering. She's not going to be protected. Only the women of the elect, that are in the Lord, or that are, or that have husbands in His truth, and you stick to that man. You stay by his side, and don't become like Lot's wife or Job's wife. When tribulation hits, you'll be protected under that divine protection. But all these other women out here, they're finished. So this is murder, all right? Because that's not how you exorcise a demon. This ain't Frailty. Y'all remember that movie Frailty? Go and watch that movie Frailty. It came out like in the early 2000s. But this dude, he thought he got a revelation that there was several people in this city that had demon possession. So he had to basically go and commit these exorcist killings on these people. And he went and killed several people, and he had two sons. One, the younger son, he was with it. He's following his father. The older one, he wasn't with it. All right, and he witnessed what his father was doing, and he was a Christian. This was a Christian. He thought he got a revelation that these people were demons, and to exorcise their demons, he had to put them to death. So that's what he went around doing. That was his sick version of laying hands on people. But anyway, so she went the route and put her own child to death. And there's been several incidences that in the last 5 years where a parent killed their child and blamed it on demon possession. So yeah, you're gonna see these demons increase in these last days, and that's why the scriptures tell us, to put on the whole armor of the Most High. Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Let me get that story about Legion. Because she trying to exercise spirits, and when she was the one that had the spirits on her. And once them demons get on you, you'll black out, man. You'll have more strength. You like the strength levels when demons get on you. Is a bit over human level strength. And you're not in your right mind. There's a whole entity that took over your body, man. Or entities. Mark 5. This is Mark 5:1. It says, and they came over unto the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he had come out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because he got spirits on her. And that's why I believe like a lot of these Jakes, especially the end of, this is why I think it's hard to, like, I've seen a lot of incidences where something would happen to her and you expect her to drop immediately. You even expect her to probably even die, but she gets right up and continue in that energy. Like we saw a video of this one chick, it was altercation going on, and this bitch got hit by a car through a building. Like the car rammed her into a building. The wall broke up and everything. Why this girl get right back up and ran back towards the altercation? You get chicks getting shot, all type of stuff. Chicks getting out of flipped cars and still running. These chicks got demons on them. They're highly demonic entities roaming around. And dudes be putting seeds in these demons. The scriptures say about, how our women, they're hardened against their young ones, as if they're not theirs. It even says in Lamentations about how the daughters of his people are cruel like the ostrich in the wilderness, man. So our women got issues. It says because that he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked asunder by him, and the fetters broken in pieces, neither could any man tame him. They can't tame, the end up can't be tamed. She's wild. And you got, these young monsters as well. Can't even tame them. But who's raising them? The monster breeder. Okay. And always night and day. And he was in the mountains and in the tombs crying and cutting himself with stones. But when he saw Yahushua far off, he ran and worshipped him and cried with a loud voice and said, showing you that them spirits, they know Yahushua and they fear Yahushua. They respect Yahushua. The scriptures say in James that even the devils believe and tremble. He says, what have I to do with thee, Yahushua, thou son of the Most High God? I adjure thee by the Most High that thou torment me not. For he said unto him, come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. And he asked him, what is thy name? And he answered, saying, my name is Legion, for we are many. All right. And I forget what the number is for a legion. I want to say okay, a legion, a body of soldiers whose number differed at different times, and in the time of Augustus seems to have consisted of 6,826 men, i.e. 6,100 foot soldiers and 726 horsemen. So roughly almost 7,000 men. So you're talking about a army of spirits, demons, right? He said, for we are many. And there's a lot of people in these last days that are occupied. I'll just put it like that. Their bodies their vessels are occupied. Okay, they have host, and this is what we're dealing with out here in these streets. So that's why you got to be circumspect at all times, man. Be sober, be vigilant. Be circumspect, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the times because the days are evil. This is why people every single day are just bugging out, crashing out. All right, road rage, people, carrying weapons everywhere. Nobody trusts nothing. Nobody care about nothing. Nobody think to think logically for a change. And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. And now there was there nigh unto the mountains a great herd of swine feeding, and all the devils besought him, saying, send us into the swine that we may enter into them. Yeah, because they need a host. All demons need flesh to host. All right, and that's how they possess. They have to go into a flesh in order to act. And it says, and forthwith Yahushua gave them leave, and the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000 and were choked in the sea. And they that fed the swine fled and told it in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what it was that was done. And they came to Yahushua and see him that was possessed with the devil and had the legion sitting and clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Okay. So yeah, man. And we in that time, man. Demons are everywhere. So that's why, we, here, at least here at Great Millstone, we encourage brothers and you sisters to, continue to pray every single day. Anoint yourselves when you can, say prayers, because, hey, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities. All right. They out there. And these people, they're losing out. So now this woman got to live with the rest of her life behind bars. Will never have freedom anymore, in the loss of your only child. And you at your hands. So, yeah. And I believe there's another precept that says that, this dynamic is to be upon, this generation. Let me see if I can find that. Could be in Luke. Let me see. Okay, it's not here either. But basically, matter of fact, let me go to Matthew 12. It might be here. Yep, this is it. Matthew 12 and 43, and it says, when an unclean spirit is going out of a man, he walketh through dry places, seeking rest, and findeth none. Then he said, I will return into my house from whence I came out. And this happens to individuals who come into this thing. And, the demon gets withdrawals, because you get cleansed by the spirit. You change, the old lifestyle habits and, your old lust is going away, but it'll come back if you ain't right. Your heart ain't right and you're not, praying enough. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. They can come back with full force and make you worse than you were before. All right. And this is how they'll come. It says, and when he has come, he findeth it empty, swept and garnished. Then goeth he and taketh with himself 7 other spirits more wicked than himself. And they enter in and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. Even so shall it be also unto this wicked generation. So now we got a generation of, demons, man. It is the sinful and wicked and adulterous generation. So iniquity is definitely going to abound and the love of many is going to continue to wax cold. So this is why you got people that's just it's like you would think that they don't even have a conscience. You rise up to stab the hell out of your own flesh and blood. You kill your parents or your grandparents. You know, this is what's happening. So, yeah, man, iniquity shall increase above that which you have heard or which you have, seen long ago. Faith will be barren in these last days. Mistress women will bring forth monsters, all type of things. And we're seeing it. So that lets you know that, the final judgment is approaching. Okay. So I'm going to end off with that, man. And hey, stay away from this beast. Okay. And I'm going to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. And to the next one, Shalom.